Hi, Chris Mc Loone here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our podcast. Again, today we're going to be talking about lighting. We're going to be talking about intelligently controlled lighting. And with me today is Whelen's technology sales manager, Chris Watkins. And we're going to cover this in a variety of ways. You know, we typically think of emergency lighting as you just flip a switch, it goes on. Over time, sometimes it all goes off like that. Sometimes it grades itself down and shuts down, in a gradual effect. But really, we don't think about, what is happening to control the lighting. It's a switch. It goes on, it goes off, and then, we go about our business. Chris, it's funny. My fire company that I belong to put together a truck committee to build a new rescue truck. So they are, now looking at all the options that are out there. They're, paying attention to these types of things because, what's here today might be improved tomorrow, especially in light of the types of lead times that we have. But if I were to go up to them and say, you guys have, not that you have to, but you guys should look into or investigate intelligent control for our emergency lighting, I'm not even sure I'd be able to really adequately explain what I mean by that if I were to go to them with that. So I think a good place to start our conversation today is to talk about just what you mean by intelligent control for lighting.
Absolutely. So it's a great question, and that's kind of a leading question a lot of folks have with the truck committees. So an intelligent system is able to do a lot of things. For our traditional lighting system, you basically set a light head on a vehicle, and it was set to a flash pattern, and it's either on doing its thing or it's off. And now with intelligent control, there's a lot more control over each light head. So you have independent control over each light head and the color it performs. So now that light heads are available in a single color or a dual color or a trio color, we can really take advantage of all the lighting on the vehicle and make it do whatever we want, whenever we want. So I know what flash pattern I can set it to. So I can set it to something fast and aggressive or slow and dim. So we can change the intensity. We can even steady burn. So you can really make the light head do anything you want, anytime you want. And not only do you have it from the control. So you mentioned flipping a switch and turning your light on. Now we can take the officers or the operator's input on, hey, I want my lighting on, or I want it to do this, right? But now we can start to see inputs from the vehicle and the systems on the truck. So now not only do I get input from the operator, but now I'm getting input from the vehicle. How fast are we driving? Are we on the brakes? Are we on the accelerator? Is the air brake on? Is it day? Is it night? So we can do a lot of automation and assume what the lighting needs to do based on what the vehicle's doing and the operator's doing. So during the day, we want, and during response, we want a nice, aggressive, loud sirens, aggressive lighting to gain attention moving through traffic. But once we arrive on scene during the day, we can slow it down, still keep it bright because we're fighting the daylight, right? But we still want a slower pattern because that indicates to the normal, public driver that the vehicle stopped. And we know if the vehicle stops, that means people are out and about moving around the scene. And especially at night, knowing it's nighttime, the air brake's on, we know we're on scene at night. We can now dim the lights, slow them down, put them in a pattern, which is a lot easier on the eyes. So the system's doing all of that automatically. All the operator's doing is getting in the vehicle, turning the switch on, and we take care of the rest.
Well, like I just said, a lot of times, warning and safety technology, it really just used to be about lights and sirens. But what you just described is sort of an evolutionary path that we've taken to get here. How have we gone from just lights and sirens into connected systems, and how does that affect firefighter safety, or why is it important for firefighter safety?
Yeah, so really the progression, back in the day, it was halogen lights, right? And then when the LED was really brought out, that really increased our ability to put a lot more lighting on the vehicle, right? Because halogen wasn't enough, right? During the day, you couldn't really see a whole lot, right? Hopefully you had some strobes on there to get some attention, but halogen lights just didn't cut through the sunlight. And when LEDs came out, it was fantastic. Well, now we can put 82,000 lights on a truck. So we're safer, right? And we learned a lot that once the LED became super bright, that now it became too much at night. Mm-hmm. So it's really now controlling the intelligence, because during some situations, we do need it bright. We do need it aggressive, but we made it to where it can kind of overpower. So now we need that intelligence to set the scene, especially at night, to dim it down and bring it down. Because yes, we still want to alert folks way far away from a scene so they have plenty of time to adapt, move a lane over, right? Create a safer scene for those that they're passing by. So we want that long off distance ability, but once they get near us, we don't need them driving like that, right? And also, I've gone to truck inspections and seeing the difference on an agency that does go to one of these intelligent control systems at night. They can go get their tools and work on the truck and not have to like block their hand from a light that's right above a cabinet they're looking at. So there's a lot really to safety that we can do with the lighting. But now adding another level of connectivity is just going to unlock a whole lot more.
One thing that I probably never would have thought of when thinking about emergency lighting is geofencing. And a part of this whole evolution has been geofence controlled technology. Mm-hmm. How does that work on a fire truck? I guess during a response, really.
Mm-hmm. So one of our best examples and one piece that any first responder can really understand is traveling through a red light intersection, right? So if we have traffic preemption in our area, that is fantastic. That's a great technology, and we work with that as well. But geofence control tech is where we can make our systems work differently inside a geofence versus outside. So if I were to geofence a big dangerous intersection or a lot of large intersections down a pathway, as the truck reaches that intersection, we can automatically put it in a intersection clearing response mode. So the engineer driving the vehicle can focus on the vehicle, not worry about having to hit buttons and air horns and things to get people's attention. They can focus on driving and seeing if they have control over that intersection, and leave the officer free to prepare for the scene and do all the things they have to do in the back end on the way there. So really, we can make the system completely automate as they're traveling. Leave the station, we activate the lights, and the entire way there, we can take care of the rest.
And that really kind of, I come at this from the volunteer fire company side of things. So like this really, in a situation like mine, that really would create the need for some not, I don't want to say partnership, because we already have a partnership with our municipality, but really does need to be some interaction between the fire company and the municipality to set up that geofence. Is that accurate?
Not necessarily. So in our space, we have personnel dedicated to helping folks out with that. So it's actually very easy to do in the software to draw the geofence and kind of pick your intersections. So we like to do what's called teach, man, fish. So we can teach you how to do it. It's super easy. But anybody within their account can set those up, and it can be done within really seconds. So very easy to adapt.
Is there anything that needs to be done? We talked about the intersection. Like it's a bad intersection. We want to make sure that we have requested control of the intersection and indeed have that control. Is there anything on the traffic lights themselves that need to be configured for this to work?
So in geofence control tech, we're not really doing anything with the traffic light. We're really controlling the lights on the emergency vehicle. So we're going to an aggressive flash pattern, a more aggressive siren tone, maybe multiple siren tones. So we're really just enhancing what the emergency vehicle is doing. But with connectivity, we have also partnered with all the traffic preemption companies. So if you do have traffic preemption in your area, you're able to adapt to the latest and greatest in traffic preemption. And to kind of touch on that, the most traditional piece of that is the infrared light that was mounted on top of the vehicle or in a light bar, and that would infrared signal to the traffic light and request that lane get the green light, right? So that's one way our first responders, but that is very old technology. Its key focus and working is being maintained, and it's funny enough, the LED has modified that. So back when traffic lights were halogen, so when the red and the yellow and the green were a halogen bulb, they got fixed a lot, right? Because it was a halogen bulb. They went out, they needed to put a new one in. While they're up there, they cleaned the receivers. And for the traffic preemption and everything worked. Well, LEDs have kind of changed in how our maintenance is done on traffic lights. So those little receivers on the traffic lights don't get cleaned as often as they should, and sometimes don't work for the agency. And it just becomes a communication discussion to talk and get the maintenance crew to work on this to make that technology work. And it's a fine technology, but it requires a lot of maintenance. They went to a GPS labeled type of preemption when there was an actual radio that would communicate from the truck to the traffic light. But again, you were limited by distance. So you had to be within that radio range, which limitates you, right? And a emergency vehicle traveling more, at higher speed is going to get to the traffic light before it has a chance to change. So it didn't really work well. Well, the latest in traffic preemption is really LTE based, and you can draw out geofences in their technology. So you can draw out a geofence miles away, see the emergency vehicle coming miles away, and then have plenty of time to get pedestrians through the intersection and then change the light to the green. So that's really on the traffic preemption side, but a connected device on the vehicle, a connected vehicle safety gateway is our device on the vehicle, will be that trusted connection on the vehicle to be able to talk to them.
In keeping with kind of that location, those location types of features, and you've talked a lot about it. You've used the term already, automation. And in this case, there are a lot of you are automating safety actions based on the location of the vehicle. You mentioned it a little bit for the engineer, so that he or she can concentrate on what they're doing versus needing to worry about hitting the siren or hitting the horn or whatever. But talk a little bit about the rest of everybody else in the truck. How does automating these safety actions help firefighters stay focused and create, once you're there, a safer scene for both the responders and the public?
Sure. So geofences can be really used in any way. The intersection piece is really a good example to kind of talk that way. But once you arrive on scene, depending on where you are, on the right side of the road, the left side of the road, if there's thought kind of put beforehand that, hey, if we're on the right side of the interstate of the area that we control is our fire area, is the right side of the road. I want to make sure when we arrive, if we're ever on the interstate and we're in response mode and I'm on the right side shoulder, I want my left TA on. And if I'm on the inside shoulder and we geofence the inside shoulder, you could automate that anytime we're parked in response mode, our right TA is on. So we could just start to try to automate, because we all know that first responders, yes, getting there is very important. Step one, right? Get there. And then once you get there, that's really when the response starts, and you have a duty to do, and we can take care of the lighting. Engage that air brake, jump out, do your job, and again, automation can kind of take care of the rest.
When we talk about automation like this, there's a certain amount of work that has to be done kind of on the back end, if you will. I consider it, programming, but it's not, I'm sure that it's more like I'm sure it's even the programming is probably a little bit automated for the end user. But how getting all of these features to work, how is that done? And once it's done on your end or at the manufacturer's end where they take care of setting it up for you, how easy is it for the end users, the chief engineer of a volunteer company or a fleet maintenance technician at a larger department that has its own fleet facility? How can they, if they needed to modify it, check into some things there?
Yeah, so there's always the traditional software laptop and a USB cable, right? So that's kind of the traditional way that these intelligent control systems were really modified. But we got a lot of feedback from customers out in the field that sometimes they're not on site, right? We might have a big fire company that has 7 stations, or we may be a volunteer department where our builder's hours away, right? And that person that needs to touch that truck or update that truck is long far away. So now over-the-air programming is now available. Mm-hmm. So now these vehicles can be over-the-air updated in a matter of seconds. We have firmware updates where Whelen releases new technology, new ability for these systems and things that they can do. And then, of course, you have the agency's preferred configuration on how they want their truck to work and how their lights are to respond when they do this, that, and the other. And that can be done over the air. And a typical update takes about 10 to 15 seconds. So easily done and can be done really on the fly and very quickly. Don't even have to take a truck out of service really to do something like that.
And do we need to call Whelen to get that done? Or is that something that can be done in-house?
So this is the power of the cloud platform where the agency owns it. So within the agency, if they have somebody that is an educated programmer, they can take care of all this internally. But obviously, you have the entire Whelen staff at your beck and call that we can help. We can help modify configurations and help you as well.
We've been talking a lot about, the safety and response, safety once on scene. But I want to kind of keep us on that fleet maintenance sort of vein right now, where whenever anything that can help an emergency vehicle technician diagnose a problem and get that rig back in service as quickly as possible. Especially if they can go to the station where it's housed instead of having to take it somewhere else. That's a big deal. So when we talk about, intelligent control and all that, we're talking about these lighting systems having a pretty decent chunk of intelligence built into them. Does this intelligence include the ability to diagnose any emergency lighting issues that may pop up? I mean, when we think about it, these things are so reliable today that it's rare, but like if something were to creep up, is there anything in there to help them diagnose any issues?
Yeah. So, in any lighting equipment and when we got into these telecontrol systems, really it started with diagnosing lights, that are diagnostic lights that are on the unit. And so you can see a technician on site or an officer on site could see, the purple light's on and it's doing this. And over the phone, you could kind of figure it out, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's gone to, if you can plug in a laptop, you can get a little more information out of the system. It'll kind of tell you what's going on. But with the power of over-the-air programming, that feature is going to be able to be unlocked very soon. So you're going to be able to diagnose these over the air. So that's definitely, it's not a feature out exactly today, but it's going to be very soon.
What about when we get into the design of the trucks? Besides, picking model numbers for lights and deciding whether or not to go with intelligent control and things like that, we have to decide. We have to make other decisions in terms of how the truck's going to be wired and things like that. With something like this that is, sort of some advanced technology, can these systems only be used on rigs that are multiplexed?
So no, these can easily be installed on a traditional hardwired truck versus a multiplex system truck. So they could easily adapt to either one, and you can do really a lot of the same features no matter which way you choose to outfit your truck.
Now this is more of an opinion question, I guess, for you. But yeah, I don't know. I was talking. I had a podcast a few weeks ago. Where I talked to John at Whelen, and I was telling him, our conversation was more about scene lighting. But I was explaining how when I first started, we just had two light towers that just went straight up. They would pivot, but they couldn't tilt, or so we could pan, but we couldn't tilt. And they were, halogen lights, and they threw a lot of light, but you really couldn't direct it anywhere. And we were just talking about, then it was. And then when we were talking about warning, we were talking about like the halogens, and then the big thing, I had my first blue light was a Whelen rotating beacon. I put it on my dashboard, or I'd do the Kojak and throw it on the roof, kind of a thing. But then the big thing was, within the first few years was like getting the strobes, having the strobe lights on the dash, and because they were so bright, and they did this, that, and the other thing. And now we're at LEDs, and it really does seem that it was moving kind of gradually for a while there, and then boom, it just took off. Once we got, like you were saying earlier, once we got into the LED stage, just it seems like almost like the possibilities are endless. For how to use these. In the intensity of the light, the flash pattern of the light, how much of that can be automated, but. As someone who's in the business of developing these things and educating on these things, what excites you most for what's next for intelligent control, if you can even talk about it, because I don't want you to give away any Whelen secrets or anything. But for intelligent control and connected vehicle technology, what excites you most for what's coming up? Again, if you can talk about it.
I can't give away secrets. So I will say we've got a lot on the list to get completed, and I'm excited really to see how this will spread out and be the norm. So it's a long time. I kind of talk home electronics. It was a long time when the color TV came out that it ever outsold the black and white TV. So I'm excited to see this type of tech, which is today maybe viewed as like, oh, wow, that's untouchable. This is a very attainable product. This is a very attainable technology that's fairly easy to use. And there's tons of support behind it. But I'm really interested to see it become the norm and it just be on every vehicle that's out there.
And really, it is something that, on the fire apparatus specification side, when you stay abreast of all this stuff as you are planning your rig. But again, with the lead times the way that they are right now, things can change, along the way. Once there does come a point where to change something it's not great timing, but things do change along the way. So I've talked on other podcasts where have that sort of built in somewhere into your spec where if we want to change, I'm thinking so much of like changing light bars or something like that because a new one comes out. But for something like this, if a new feature comes out with this, you want to stay on top of that so that you can make the change in the appropriate time. But that does make me think of stuff. We have, where we were, where we are now, kind of where we're going. How about legacy? There are intelligently controlled lighting systems out there right now today. They're probably, I don't know how far back they go. I'm not sure. But what are there? You talked about firmware updates and how they can, you can take care of them over the air, or will someday be able to take care of them over the air. How much of this is backwards compatible, I guess is what I'm getting at there. If I have a rig in service, and I want to maybe upgrade a little bit, how easily is that done?
Very easily. To kind of touch on how long's intelligent control been out. So our first, I call it official intelligent control system, was our B-Link system that came out in, I believe, 1993. Okay. So we've been in the intelligent control business for a long time. It has grown leaps and bounds, but we still support as much as our legacy product as we can. So there's many of our light heads that if it's a 5-10-year-old truck will easily work with these intelligent systems. You may not have all the features, but you can have most. But yeah, that's a big piece of it is plan ahead. These truck committees are becoming more and more popular, and I love that agencies are doing that because they have a dedicated person to really start researching and herding everybody together to do the right thing. But definitely focus on future tech, what that looks like. Because let's be frank, these trucks are in service for 10 plus years sometimes. So I do all your investigation you can. Bring in the experts to come talk to you. Let them do demonstrations. This kind of technology is really better seen than heard. Mm-hmm. This is great for us to talk about on the podcast. We've been talking about intelligent control really in conference rooms for a long time. But once you get an officer in a vehicle and you show it to them and they actually get to see what you're talking about, it's a complete game changer. So it's just a better understanding of what this can do and how it can work and how it can benefit your team.
Well, and along those lines, anytime we go to buy a new rig, we have to, justify the cost to, the authority having jurisdiction. And, the more information that committee chairman or the chief of the department has to explain, this it's not just a gimmick. It's not just a whiz bang, we are going to improve our customers or the residents of the municipality. We're going to increase their safety when we're on the scene. We're going to increase the firefighters' safety en route and once we're on the scene. And overall, this is also going to help, keep rigs in service longer. And, so once you can put all those pieces in front of people, it really does help, justify speccing that particular system. So, like you have to have the answer. Well, why are you going with the fancy lighting system? Why can't we just use what we did last time? And then there's, legitimate reasoning behind that. But, again, being able to see it, like you just said, and then in turn being able to communicate that to the authority having jurisdiction becomes very, very critical whenever we are in the specification process. Well, Chris, I want to thank you very much for sitting down with me today. I mean, we've covered a lot, and there's tons of stuff to still cover with this type of topic. But before I let you go, do you have any final comments, or do you have, if there was a single takeaway you would like our audience to take away with them today? Sky's the limit. Anything final to say?
Yeah, really that piece on do your homework, investigate this, look into what this tech can do. Because you're right, today, this is what it does. But it is unlocked to do whatever we need to do in the future. So over the air is a thing today. Firmware updates in the field are a thing today. And so, our core system, which is our intelligent control system, has been out since 2018, 2019. And we have had firmware update after firmware update, unlocking new technology and features that customers have asked for. So I highly encourage folks to look into it, do your homework, and get a demo and spec it on your next truck.
And one more question, actually, for anyone who would like to get more information on the core system or just Whelen in general, how would they do that?
Just contact us at whelen.com.
All right, perfect. Well, again, my thanks to you, Chris, for sitting down with me to talk about this. If there are topics about lighting, emergency, scene, or otherwise, you'd like us to hit on during our podcast, please let me know. I'm at chris.mcloone@clarionevents.com. If you have any questions for Chris that maybe he didn't hit on and you'd like me to forward over to him, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has. So again, please let me know, chris.mcloone@clarionevents.com. All of our podcasts are archived at fireapparatus.com/podcast. So again, go there. We've had Whelen on before, so go back, take a look at that. That was more about scene lighting, and just go back and take a look. And if there's anything that we haven't hit on, that a topic you'd like us to hit on, please again let us know. So again, this has been Chris McLoone with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Have a good one, everyone, and stay safe. Thanks again, Chris.
Thanks.